afternoon from Portugal. I tell you, it's a good job I have my mic muted during that because I love singing along. It's a good job nobody can hear what's going on. Boa tarde, todos. Lee McGrady, you look like you could hear what I was singing, possibly.
I could hear what you were singing, yes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, good afternoon. How are you today, apart from sick of tomatoes?
Yeah, it's been a good day today. It's been a good weekend and a good day.
Excellent stuff. Okay, nice start to the week. You were saying on the morning show that it was a bit grey and dismal over in Lisboa, but it looks like it's tidied up a bit.
Miserable this morning. It was everything was wet and it was cloudy and grey and real heavy mist. But by lunchtime, it had cleared up and was looking fantastic again.
Oh, it can so easily happen. That's why you're here. Fantastic. And over to Devon now, to the Fresh Air team. How's it going, Anna?
Yeah, it's going well. It's been a bit wet most of today, so haven't ventured anywhere. But yes, it's funny. It sort of feels like it's cold, but apparently it's 17 degrees. But we have had a bit of rain, so yes. Stayed in, and weekend hasn't been too bad.
Okay. And are there lots of pumpkins around in the UK at the moment? Everybody getting ready for a bit of the old Halloween action?
I'm trying to remember where I was actually. I think we did venture somewhere at the weekend, and I think someone was actually selling some. I think so. Yes, it seems to be getting into the autumn spirit. I think already. So all looking pretty good. And I haven't seen many leaves falling so far, but there are a few changing colours. So. I'm thinking raking will be featuring very soon. I think.
A bit of the old Reiki healing for autumn. Go on, John.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Anna, it's the same pumpkin seller you saw as I saw. We bought pumpkin from him on, when was that? It was at the weekend anyway. I can't remember if it was yesterday or Saturday, but this guy, just there's the cemetery on Coach Road in Newton Abbot. Sort of between one of the roads just as Newton Abbot, and then there's like the little lane that goes up to Abbott's Kurzweil there, and he sells them there.
Possibly.
Does that sound about right? Quite elderly guy.
Bit of a cough.
I think so. I'll probably recognise it again next time I'm out and about. I think, but
Yeah, he's been there about maybe 2 or 3 years now.
Okay, this time of year as well. So are you going to be sculpting that pumpkin then, John?
Yes, we have done already, but we haven't sculpted it. We've got like a pen on it, but then you can sort of get rid of the bit that's got the pen on, but also still be able to eat the pumpkin, because the problem with sculpting them is that you can't then eat them because, of course, it goes moldy and horrible when it's got the candle in for the face. So yeah,
very clever.
That's a tip there, actually. If you sort of try and sort of research ways of making sure that you don't waste the pumpkin and that you can actually eat it.
Yes, indeed. Very good. Follow this program for more tips and advice like that. That go into the kind of culinary area. That I know Lee's not too keen. It's not a cookery program. He says it's a gardening program, but there is an overlap. There's a big overlap. And we'll come back to you, John, because you've been to a rather remarkable garden, I think, in Devon. But let's say hello to everybody who's here already this evening. Boa tarde todos from Louise. Thank you for your picks, Louise. We'll be popping them up on the screen before the show's out. Louise, meus pais. Morris and June are there as well. So good evening to you, Morris and June as well. Matty's here, Amsterdam. Hola, boa noite. Feliz cultivadores. To the happy homesteaders, the happy gardeners of Amsterdam. Fantastic. Yes, so turns out my mic was on. Oh dear. Okay, so let's just gloss over that. Hello and welcome. If you forgot to let Anna know about your question or have only just thought of one, let us know here. Absolutely right. Thank you very, very much for that. It's probably John doing that. Boa tarde todos from Louise. And yes, okay, thank you very much, Morris and June with us tonight. Friends of yours, Lee. Look at this.
Pardon?
Friends of yours shouting out your name in the comments there. I think it's the Man Cavers, isn't it?
Oh, right, Man Cavers. Yeah, what's about it?
shouting. Eric Weezer as well. Tomatoes from you too. Very interesting pictures from you, Eric. Thank you so much for those. And Mark from Norfolk. Great to see you, Mark. Hello to you. Sonal, new name, I think. Flower plant making white bugs. How can we prevent from this? Sonal, thank you so much. New person, new question. We'll come back to that. Still picking toms, melons, French beans, lettuce, beetroot here in Portugal, as well as peppers, chilies, and the new lemons and pomegranates are just ripening, ready for G&T. So there's a nice serving suggestion as well. It is shifting away from the gardening, Lee, with all these serving suggestions. You don't mind a bit of a G&T with that sounds very good. And I have to say, I had some lovely persimmon yesterday. What's it called? Nespera? No, not Nespera, is it? Something like that. A spiro. Fruit, my favorite fruit yesterday from the market in San Martino de Porto. We were there on Saturday. I want to do this every weekend now. Talk about Steve Jobs. This is what an Apple store should look like. What do you think of that, everybody? Isn't that fantastic? Only apples in that on that store there. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, it was really, really good. So enjoyed going to the market on Saturday. And other pictures to show, including this. We might come back to pests. That is a big fella. We'll come back to we'll come back to that a little bit later on. That is awesome. Just want to finish off on the comments here. John Rooney's in. Botard, lovely weather in Alcobaça today. We're thinking of getting green-fingered here. How easy is it to grow bird of paradise plants and kumquats for a kickoff? That's got a poetic ring to it, John. Very good. So let's start there. What do you make of that, Head Gardener McGrady?
Bird of paradise and kumquat, dead simple. Bird of paradise, the only problem is controlling them. They get really big. And the kumquat, the only problem with that is keeping on top of eating them all. Because when they come through, they come through in mass. So 2 nice and easy plants that do really well here in Portugal.
Okay.
Can both be done in containers as well if the container's big enough.
And the kumquat. Now I need to ask about this. The kumquat is not the same as the Physalis Chinese gooseberry, is it? The kumquat is a small citrus, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a tree shrub. It's more of a tree. It's a large plant.
Yeah.
Very soft root on them. Most of them only come once a year, but I've got like the motorbike pass. I've got one customer who produces twice a year, so she gets far too many.
Okay, all right. Because it's not the sort of thing. It is a bit specialist. It's not the sort of thing, unless you really love them, I suppose. Not the sort of thing you would eat loads of in a sitting, and then if you did, you probably wouldn't want to do it again too often.
Makes fantastic jam though, and the jam is really nice.
Kumquat jam. Okay, very good, very good. And with the bird of paradise flowers, then growing from seed, or buy it in a pot and grow it on from there.
Well, ask a nice neighbour. They grow from like a deep tubers, and they multiply really quickly. So you start off with a small group of tubers, and they get bigger and bigger every year, to the point where they need to split. Just to keep the size of the base of the plant down to a reasonable size. So dead easy to get hold of. If you can ask around, someone will give you a bit. But yeah, you can buy them from small plants, garden centres. Less than 20-year-olds get you a small plant in a small pot. But they grow so quick, you don't need to spend anything more than that. Okay, that's really good to know. Yeah, you don't want to end up with more tubers than a colliery band, do you? So mind out, because it'll go from nothing to thank you, John, to everything overnight. So you've got to be careful. Thank you very much, John. Thank you very much. Okay, so there you go. Kumquats and birds of paradise plants dealt with there. Lee, another one for you while we're here. Any tips to get rid of grasshoppers? We have lots of praying mantis. Look at that. 10-centimeter bodies on them that eat some. So the praying mantis are very welcome because they like feasting on the grasshoppers. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing to see a video of, Eric, if you can oblige with that? But there are too many. It's not a plague, but would like to have less grasshoppers. What to do? Oh, I've no idea, because they're obviously not. They're coming into the garden from somewhere else, I imagine.
Yeah. And
it's the preventative side needs to be on the other side, but I quite like them. They don't do any real damage. Not really. Go down and squish them with your fingers, but I like them. I like seeing them.
Okay.
So yeah. No, I don't think the grasshoppers are a problem in his garden. Well, there'll be a problem in his garden, but you're not going to solve it because it's coming from outside of the garden. You get what I mean? So unless you're actually bothering all your fruit, you can just cover your fruit. Just keep it covered and put a protective membrane over to stop getting at it. But I think it's something that's more regional than anything.
And what does grasshopper damage look like? Let us know. That's fascinating. Would love to know, Eric, what grasshopper damage would look like.
The savage wee beasties when they get into your green, they eat a lot. When they get to plague proportions, they can wipe out farms. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So maybe butter and garlic then, and a touch of the old sky prawn vibe. And if you can overcome the problem of eating sky prawns rather than sea prawns, and lightly saute them in some garlic butter, that could be an option as well. Anybody here eaten such a thing? How was it, Lee?
It was awful. It was crispy.
Okay.
There was a stall in Edinburgh a few years ago, and they were trying to promote eating insects over eating meat.
Yeah. Didn't work.
And they were giving them away. And I ate a couple of ants and a couple of little bits, and then I said, "No, I'll stick to my beef burgers." It was just crispy. It was weren't nice at all.
All right. You, Anna, or John on the grasshoppers?
Not me. No.
No, can't say I've eaten anything that adventurous before, but yeah.
I mean, I've accidentally swallowed flies before, but I suppose that doesn't really count, does it?
You've got to sleep with your mouth shut, John. Sleep with your mouth shut, mate. So John's very happy about the advice there. Looking forward to making kumquat jam with Grand Marnier. That does sound pretty good, actually, John, doesn't it? So if you want to send some into the studio, well, we need 4 pots, really. We've got 4 studios here, effectively. We could do a bit of a tasting. Those little pots, you know, the little ones that you get in a hotel for breakfast. We'd love that, John, if you want to give us a sampling pot of that. Sounds fantastic. And it sounds like you've got a bit of confidence to go for it there with the Birds of Paradise and the kumquats. Fantastic. Hola, Khadijah's here. What should I do with it? Good evening to you. What should I do with a cherry tree that moves when I push against it? It's about a 10 centimeter diameter trunk. The trunk up until the main branch is about 1.5 meters tall. It is in a garden spot with cement on 3 sides, so not really room to build up the soil. What to do there, Lee?
Oh, it's a complicated one. Doesn't sound like you've got a lot of space for staking. If you can get tree stakes in around it, put one either side of the tree, a stake either side of the tree, and build a frame across. It's a lack of space. If she had more space, you could put stakes in on a diagonal angle to sit. But I think it's a lack of space. Rather than lifting the concrete, there's not much you can do, I'm afraid.
Okay. So maybe a picture, and then we can come up with an engineering type of solution to that from one of the clever people of the community.
I've got a stake down on my apple tree, but we've got all the space in the world there for them, so it's not an issue for us. Okay. But when you've got confined ground with concrete around, it's always going to be difficult because you can't get the stake deep enough in on a lot of occasions because it's a lot.
And what's the problem with a tree that moves when you lean against it?
Well, if it gets too much growth on the top and it's not secured enough at the bottom, when it gets a little bit bigger and the wind catches it, it's just going to push it over.
Oh, okay.
And it will never really root properly. If it's always moving, it'll never really set its roots in the ground properly and never really produce or develop as it should do.
Okay. All right, that's great, Lee. I've had a request to move you to the top half of the screen because you use your hands a lot when you're explaining something. You can't be seen behind the comments. So there you go. We've got you in a better position now for your gesticulations. How do I send a picture? I would love to see your baby grasshoppers that you are also have a bit of a challenge with. The number to do that, John, is you're in Portugal already, so all you need is 913-590-303. Looking forward to that, and that's the way to get in touch, so we can go and check out that picnic area that we were talking about the other day as well, and finally meet up after all this time as well. I do believe, John, you were going to tell us about Honeymead, but also you've got a question left over from last week, and Anna's got a few as well. So, John, maybe we should start with you. Honeymead, not Runnymede, that famous historical place near Windsor.
Yes, indeed, Honeymead. And basically, what it is, if you've ever been to Shalden before, or Shalden in Devon, a little seaside town in Devon, sort of bit near Teignmouth, then you may know about this. But it's the Honeymead Botanical Gardens, and they're sort of up the hill a bit in Shalden. And yeah, it's very good in there actually, because it's free entry because it's owned by Teignbridge Council. So that's one of the few good things they're doing, to be honest. But yeah. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, it's really interesting in there. Actually, they've got some sort of, it's a nice little walk. And there's some interesting plants in there as well, and it's obviously good for the nature and the wildlife and so on in there. And yeah, it's good fun actually in there, and I think somewhere that you should go if you haven't been, and somewhere you should continue going if you have been there before. Yes.
Okay. Well, I've got some pictures now, John. It looks like one of those lovely places that's attended to by volunteers and some lovely local community. And there it is, Botanical Gardens of Shalden. Shalden is a truly beautiful place. One of the first places I went to in Devon, and I've loved it ever since. But there you go, some pictures. And I think Lee will appreciate this. A beautiful British country garden. And look at it right next to the sea as well. You can see the sea in the distance. Do you like that? You do like that sort of formality, Lee, if I remember rightly?
I do, but being so close to the sea will have its own problems.
Okay,
I bet it's a real challenge.
Oh, okay. What happens?
Oh, well, first of all, you've got the degradation of the soil because of all the salt over the years in the wind.
Yeah.
Then you've got strong winds coming in off the sea, which can be terribly cold and destroy most green plants, given half a chance. And just that salt mist, that salt air, it just kills everything. It's really difficult to work with. You need lots of protective walls and sheltered plants, and plants that are really hardy and grown on really well before they get planted in. You envy people that live by the sea, but then you always sort of don't see the struggle they have with the gardens and trying to grow stuff in that environment.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Beautiful video there. Beautiful video. What a lovely place. And I'm really embarrassed to say that after years, 2 or 3 decades of going to Shalden, I didn't even know this place existed. But it looks superb. There's a dragonfly in flight there as well. Absolutely superb. If you love your British gardens and you love the British Riviera down there, Torbay Way, that's a great place to go when you're in the UK. Thank you, John. Lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And John there, John Rooney, this is 913-590-303 for your picks. Thanks for that, John. That little potted intro to Honeymead there in Shalden in Devon. Do you want to carry on with the question that was left over from last week as well?
Yes. I'll just read that out now. So this is Peter's question from last week that we couldn't quite have time to do because we had a lot last week, actually, didn't we? Peter's is asking any tips on anything other than brassicas. Is that the right pronunciation?
Brassicas.
Brassicas. To plant for feed over the winter.
We did actually cover a bit of this question last week. I don't remember where he was based, funnily enough. But what I suggested was to go to his local garden centre or his local cooperative, agricultural cooperative, and see what they're selling. Because all the different parts of Portugal, they all have different climates, so everyone grows different things through the winter. So his local cooperative will have plugs for sale, small plants for sale. Go and see what they're selling. I'm sure.
Yeah. I wonder if I've got confused then with the question that we missed last time. If you did answer that last week.
No,
we either covered something similar.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's always a good question to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're getting pictures in. I think, is this a praying mantis that we're seeing hatching out beneath the chili pepper there? These pictures are beautiful. It's just in from Eric, just like right now. And I don't understand a lot of what's going on here, but I think this is another praying mantis hatching out of a praying mantis pod, possibly. So we're seeing more of the praying mantises. Is that the right, or manti? I don't know what the plural of that is. Somebody will tell us, I'm sure. And these are exquisite pictures. Thank you so much, Eric. And here we go. Here's another one of the newly hatched, I think, praying mantis. They are such incredible creatures, aren't they? Look at that. The shape of the head is just superb. Another beauty here. John as well, actually. John over here in Portugal, very delighted to have praying mantises because he's also got a baby grasshopper problem. But look how tiny this little fella is there. On somebody's hand in that picture, and on a bloom on this next one. I've run out of space trying to load up pictures, so I'll come back to more praying mantis pictures. Let's go to Anna, who I know has got more questions for us tonight.
This one I'm possibly having to recap for my benefit as well because of memory. I've got a question from a friend, Kirsten in Timothy, I believe, and for the window for planting bulbs. I couldn't remember if I'd asked that one or.
Yeah, we did cover that one. Over again. You've got up until very early spring. They'll be on sale in different stages of their life as well. The bulbs, so you can buy bulbs in bags now, which are dormant. You can get them in, or you can wait till the end of the winter period. You can buy bulbs that are already shooting, and you can put them in. But I would always buy now because they're cheaper, and it gives you a chance to set up your beds and be prepared for the winter ahead, because the ground's always easiest to dig this time of year as well. So I would buy the bulbs now while they're cheap. Think very carefully about where you want to put them, because once they're in, and there's you're not get rid of them all again. And prepare your ground now with them in already. You can still overplant them with some winter colour. Maybe some pansies can go over the top of the bulbs, so you're not got bare soil. But definitely be looking now. I know they're on sale here, and I imagine they will be, or just about on sale in England as well at the same time. So, yeah.
Cool. Excellent. Okay. Anna, thank you for that. So what else have we got for me?
If you're buying crocus bulbs, just a quick one. If you're buying crocus bulbs, don't just think of them as going into the bed. Also think you can lay them under your lawn. And they look fantastic. They look great when they're coming up through the grass. Early spring, when the grass is just starting to get going, the crocus will come up. And just as the crocus die back, it'll be just time for your first cut on the lawn as well.
Well, lovely idea.
And they reproduce and reproduce and reproduce. So if you buy 10 this year, you'll have 20 next year, and you'll have 40 the year after. Crocus, don't just think of them as a bed bulb, think of them also for going in the lawn.
So to extend that point, Lee, do you clearly approve of things going in the lawn? You're not a purist, but maybe a bit of chamomile as well, and you don't mind a few flowers in there?
Well, it depends. It depends how your garden's set up. Obviously, my top lawn, I would never put anything underneath it because it's a lawn. But if I had a bit of ground at the back that I don't really wish to cut too early in the year, then I'm quite happy to. And I did back in England. We had crocus under every lawn I had in England because it was always so wet in the spring that there was never cutting it before sort of mid-April anyway. So back in England, I used to do it all the time, and I loved it. It makes you get that very early flush of colour. So yeah, it's always good for me. I used to do daffodils. I used to put daffodils under the lawn as well. They make a mess in the end when they're dying off, but I can live with it for a few weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. And you can even spell things, can't you, with bulbs if you're really thoughtful about it. As I think, notably, some prisoners were out on a little bit of work experience, weren't they, or sort of kind of modern chain gang, and they managed to plant some daffodil bulbs in the shape of an expletive, which gave the authorities quite a nice surprise in the springtime. So there's something else you could do in your lawn, or your mother-in-law's lawn, or whatever. Any other jolly position you place bulbs. Go on, Lee.
I did it in my last spring, or my last autumn of working for Oldham Council. I did just. I wrote my name all the way along the railway tracks in daffodil bulbs.
Good man.
About 70 metres. about 70 metres, massive Lee McGrady and right the way down the railway embankment.
Superb.
Yeah.
Oh, glad I mentioned it. Have we got any pictures? I guess was that pre-social media, really?
I got a phone call the year after I left from one of the lads that I work with, just laughing his head off, just saying, I'm still looking at it. Yeah.
You legend. Fantastic. Anna, more from you, I believe.
Yeah, just checking the chat as we go. I've got one from Mansell in Plymouth here in the UK. What salad and vegetables are worth sowing now, as in seed sowing?
Which country though? That'd be for Devon, right?
Yeah,
he's back in Devon. So you've got that microclimate down there. So you still get away with doing lettuce if you keep it covered. Yeah. You keep a little frame over it. You can still do your little mini carrots as well. There's loads you could still do. You've got a little window left yet. You've got maybe a couple of weeks left to get, a couple of weeks of growing period left. Yeah, if you've got a small protective cover for them that'll run like a mini polytunnel, there's loads you could still do now back in England.
Yeah,
again, I refer you back to the answer from the other question.
Okay.
Go to your local garden centre. They'll be selling now stock of veg that are available in your area, and that's the best way to do it. It's very different. Cornwall will be in Manchester.
Yeah, of course. Supplement to that Peter's question there that you referred to there, Lee. Did Peter mean feed for his turkeys? Now, so this is quite a good extension to the question, isn't there? Things to grow to give to livestock. But I mean, turkeys and chickens will eat pretty much anything, won't they?
Well, they will, but you do want to grow. If you're growing purposely for stock, then you want to grow the right food for them that gives them the right nutrients, and maybe can be stored a little bit longer as well. So there are different sorts of corn that you can grow that are more suitable for animal feed than they are for human consumption. They look very similar, but I think they don't taste as nice, and they last a little bit longer when they've been harvested.
Yes, okay. What, like beets and things like that you see farmers growing that they wouldn't take to market for humans?
Yeah. So there's still quite a lot. I had a friend back in the UK who used to do the same with beetroot. He would grow beetroot pretty much most of the year, and that was for his chickens and his turkeys.
Okay.
And apparently, you could taste. It made a difference in the taste of the meat as well, because he grew chickens and turkey for meat, not for the eggs.
Okay.
And so he was a big fan of stuff like that, growing specifically for the animal that he's feeding.
Very good. Okay. Well, Peter, if that's what you meant, there's a little tip for you. Some beetroot. Beets, yes. All kinds of livestock seem to like is it a family, the beet? I don't know, but there's certainly there seems to be some sort of connection between livestock and beet growing of every kind of variety. Anna, any more from you? Oh, we need you unmuted. That's better.
Take two. Talking of seeing hyacinths is coming up in one of the messages. Then I've actually got one from Alex up in Wiltshire. Can you grow hyacinths indoors without starting them off in the dark?
Yes, you can. Yeah, they always start better and grow better when they've been started in the dark. But they will develop on their own. As long as they don't really dry out, as long as the container's not left in direct sunshine all day, every day, without being watered regular. But then you can always get it in the container in a sunny place and just cover the top of the container. It doesn't need to put it to a dark space. It can just literally be covered with a bit of old carpet over the top of the container. And just regular check it, make sure it doesn't go dry, make sure it doesn't dry out too much.
There you go. Great. And yeah, nice connection there, Anna. Layer bulbs in a pot, bottom layer alliums, next layer daffodils, then hyacinth, finally crocus. What a lovely idea, Louise. Beautiful show over a couple of months. Well, that's a fabulous idea. And the man himself is here. Pete Bleach, hi everyone. I think this is the Peter we were talking about before. Sorry, I hadn't made that connection, Pete. So is it for your turkeys? You got some Brussels sprout and onion plugs today. €1 for 20 plugs. Now that's great value, isn't it? Any tips on Brussels, as I haven't grown them before? Yes, put them straight in the bin. They're horrible things, Pete. Go on, Lee.
They are horrible things. I agree with you completely. Don't plant them too close together. They do need quite a bit of space on them. Make sure you cane them okay when they're coming up, when they start to shoot up. Make sure they get plenty of support so they don't blow over in the wind and snap. I've seen that happen quite a few times. And they do like a strong soil as well. So don't be too stingy with your compost when you're starting your trench or you're doing your individual pots. Put plenty of compost in with it. They do like a strong soil. And then when they're grown, they get a good size, and you're ready to eat them. Like Carl said, dig them up, put them straight in the bin.
We're only kidding, Pete, because I think even if you don't like them, the turkeys will, right? They'll gobble them up, won't they, John? I probably took that joke right out of your mouth there. So there you go, Pete. Let us know if that helps there. Go on, John.
Going back to the earlier suggestion you had about layering your bulbs, this is something that the council now do on a regular basis when they're doing the container plants for the streets.
Oh yeah.
They lay them like that all the time. It just gives you that massive window where you don't have to maintain, you don't have to touch them. And it does. It looks amazing. It looks brilliant. As soon as one's dying off, the next one's coming through. It looks great.
Great idea. Louise agreeing with you there that the Brussels need quite a lot of space around them, and that reduces pests as well. So make sure you've got good airflow around your sprouts. Good advice there for you, Pete. In the Netherlands, I never had any troubles growing new geraniums from broken off bits, but here in Mexico, I cannot seem to get them growing. Any tips here? Because they are notoriously easy, aren't they, geraniums? What do you think the problem might be? Is it the temperature for Eric, do you think, Lee?
It could be the temperature. It could be the soil temperatures as well. The soil temperature and the vitality in the soil. Because you'll notice when you're in Holland or England, when you stab them into the ground, they develop really small white roots coming on first, dead quickly. I mean, within a week or two, they're already developing a root stock or root system. But they do like the dampness. Here in Portugal, I only really do it in the shaded parts of gardens. I would never put it somewhere with direct sunlight. Right. I always try to keep it in the shade, and that minimises the heat during the middle of the day.
Okay, that's it then. So propagation rather than direct planting.
The other thing you could try, if you don't want to waste too much money on improving his soil in the garden, is to start his cuttings off in pots. So if you've got a good size pot, maybe 15 inches, you'll get 9 or 10 different branches, as it is. I'm trying to think of the word. The cuttings. You'll get maybe 10 cuttings into a decent sized plant pot. So then you can leave them in a shaded spot and water them individually. And then when they start to develop the roots, then you can put them out in the garden. That might be the way around the poor soil quality in Mexico.
Very good. There you go, Lee. Sorry, not Lee. There you go, Eric. Thank you, Lee, for that. And thank you, Lee, from Pete as well. Absolutely love the advice. Lee, do you know anyone that fancies picking olives? Just 1,000 trees to harvest. So what's the way to do that, Lee?
I had a great day on Saturday. We went to AiR, I think it's called, just north of Portugal, an hour and a half up the motorway. I had a family party, and I was kidnapped by one of the cousins to go and see the olive picking. I only went because I was offered a free beer if I turned up.
That would do it.
Great. A couple of lads spoke good English, so we got a nice conversation going. They were explaining to me what they were doing and how it did it and how long it took. It was really community based as well. It was really nice to see. We was in a large field where there was no definite boundaries between the trees, but everybody knew what trees belonged to what families. To me, it just looked like a mass of trees, but they all know this is our 4, this is their 6, this is their 12 over there. Yeah. So, and they're all working together. So the 3-4 lads that I spoke to on one tree, they were saying 4 of them could do a large tree in about 2 hours.
Amazing, eh?
But they were also pruning it while they were doing it. A lot of the taller branches, they were just cutting straight off and chucking onto the floor. And obviously not being able to control myself, I was there knocking them off with a little stick onto the netting. I think they were a bit upset when I left. I'm like, I'm back up to the party for a drink.
Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Got rid of the Englishman. He's just causing trouble.
We had a good time. It was nice to see.
Yes, sounds amazing. All right, so talking of harvest and the bounty that's coming from nature at the moment. Look, Louise's tomatoes, isn't that a beautiful bowl of? It's surreal looking. They look delicious. They're making my mouth water. I think Lee's had enough of tomatoes, but here going from Portugal, yeah, they do. From central Portugal to Mexico. Look at these purple toms. Aren't they beautiful? They look superb. And another close up there. Thank you very much. It's a very different sort of leaf, isn't it, from what we're used to there with the varieties we've got over this way. Thank you very much for that, Eric. That I wanted to let that linger on the screen. That's the death hawk's head moth, isn't it? That came up. Somebody sent it in. Should I be worried about having that in my garden? What do you say when you come across these, Lee?
I love the hawkhead moths. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I always leave them be. I just let them be. I don't bother with them.
So impressive, aren't they? So impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the moth itself is also beautiful.
Yeah.
During the early part of the year, I dug up some hawkbird humming moth caterpillars at the back of the house.
Yeah.
And just left them alone. I had to put them in a corner out the way so they don't get disturbed. And I've seen more this year in the garden than I've ever seen before.
Amazing.
Regular visitors to the garden. So I love seeing the daytime moths. Yeah, fantastic.
There you go. Okay, and then going back to these pods, then there's one that's popped out of the pod, but we were showing the pod from Mexico there, and another view of it just underneath that pepper, which is quite amazing. And there's a comment to go with that, which is fantastic, from Eric, if I can find it, talking about soil and talking about the Netherlands. Wow, so many comments. This is fantastic tonight. That pod is full of eggs, between 200 and 300. It takes up to 4 months before they hatch. We have one praying mantis, which is not afraid of us. My wife feeds that one dead flies with a stick. Superb video, please. How wonderful is that? So thanks for all your pictures. And here's the cherry tree, the problematic cherry tree, Lee. I don't know how well you can zoom into that with your phone, but that's not an easy. Well, I guess you could put a kind of.
Oh no, you could definitely put a frame on that.
Yeah, a tripod like that.
Yeah, I'll find an image of a frame for it and I'll post it into the group. There's enough space there for it. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
So we're in business, Khadija, with that one, Rebel Mumba. That's fantastic. And just finally, we're praying mantis pick there. Another one. Isn't that super? Well, I think it is anyway. I'm not quite sure which end is which and what's going on there. But that's a praying mantis picture on a lovely bloom there. Fantastic. So, Anna, did you complete the list of questions you had?
I think so. We've had one. Just saying, Fiona's been messaging. The only other one I've got written down is Fiona would like to know more about grafted fruit trees and any tips on how to do it. And I'll check on any of the questions.
Okay, let's see if we can find that.
Grafting fruit trees is great fun. And I think what Fiona's aiming at is to graft different types of fruit onto one stem. Which I've done a few times back in the UK. I've not tried it here in Portugal, but it's quite a simple process. The only difficult part is getting your notch right, getting your initial cuts right. It can be done with a small knife, but there are tools you can buy for taking the cuttings. Maybe I should do a video on it because
that'd be amazing.
You take a healthy fruit stem, you heavily prune it, and then you attach different sorts of fruit branches onto that stem. And when they're grafted and they're growing, you'll get an orange tree with 4 different varieties of orange on it. Amazing. Or an apple tree with 3 or 4 different types of apples on. But it's all to do with getting the right time of year is very important. Selecting the best root stock you can find, the healthiest root stock you can find, and then getting your tie right, getting your graft cut right, and tying it and covering it nicely so that it gets no infection. I should definitely do a video on it because it's really good.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And when you're at Horticultural College, Lee, presumably you looked into the history of this process. I mean, what were the earliest human beings doing this?
Well, it was something we studied at college, and we were looking. I remember one of our trips out was to look at an orchard that dates back to almost the Bronze Age, if not further back.
Wow.
Where they were already selecting and selectively breeding apple trees to be more edible, which I thought was fascinating because this is well before the internet or books or that general knowledge that we all think we've got now.
Yes, incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they were already selectively breeding the apple trees back in the Bronze Age. A lot of the grafting came out, I believe, it came out of France. A lot of the fruit manicuring and stuff like that came out of France, and that was very early on as well, before the Norman conquests. So it goes back a long way.
It does.
Back a long way. They weren't. People always imagine the foragers as being people that travelled around with no real care. Yes. But from the more recent studies, the foragers were far more farmers than we imagine. What they were farming and then leaving the area and travelling around and coming back at the right time of year for the crop that they planted.
Fascinating. Excellent.
Yeah, stuff like that. You can do a really deep dive into it online. Some great YouTube videos about it.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, so a few comments to catch up with before we go into the last couple of comments. Understand, John, if you've got to leave us, it's been great having you here. We are inundated with baby grasshoppers in the wild area of the garden and have praying mantises appearing too. Thank goodness for praying mantis, my wife says. Yeah, fellas are always not quite as... It's a little bit eerie, isn't it, to know that the praying mantis eats its mate. The female eats the male after the mating ritual. And we're quite glad that doesn't happen here in the human, well, as far as we know, in the human system. Parabéns, obrigado from, do you want to do this one, Anna? Jesus-san Conclavius. Wow, you sound like a Roman emperor. That's fantastic. Parabéns, obrigado from you. How lovely to have your company this evening. And we also had Marcos Valbon joining us. Hello, guys. Jardim Botanical de Luso. That's at near the Busaco Palace, right? That's a fabulous and ancient Portuguese woodland, mixed variety, long before the plantations. Amazing part of Portugal, and a lovely house to visit, that palace there and its gardens, and many exotic gardens as well, you say. And I think it's a bit of a Brazilian influence there. Some imported things from the colonial times that make it an extra special place to go. D. Martins, hello from Massachusetts, USA. Hello to you. That's fantastic as well. We heard about Pete's bargains at the market. 20 plugs for €1. That's fantastic, isn't it? With his Brussels sprouts and onion plugs there. And who else? Eric talking about making your own soil with tests, etc. Soil is very good. Oh, and this was to do with, I think, the geranium cuttings, possibly. The soil is very good, pH plus or minus 7, but I think the temperature is high compared to Holland. I will try to propagate them first. Thanks. That's with the geraniums there.
There's a great podcast that's just come out on Spotify. The guy's called Bear Grease, the Bear Grease podcast. Their previous podcast was all about soil and soil quality and maintaining a great soil quality. It goes on a little bit, gets a little bit technical in parts, but it's really worth a listen to. So it's the Bear Grease podcast on Spotify, and it's all to do with soils.
Bear Grease as in the animal, the bear, and grease as in...
Yeah, the bear. Yeah, the grease from the bear. It used to be a commodity in America. It was more valuable than gold. For a short time, it was more valuable than gold.
Really? So it's like bear fat?
Yeah, bear fat. Yeah.
Good goodness. Yeah. Okay. Too soon for olive picking here, says Louise. We'll be picking ours mid-November. Looks like a good crop this year. What fun. And so you know what to do now. Get all the local families in there and promise beer. And maybe Lee will turn up as well. If the purchase of the place I'm supposed to be having goes through soon, there'll be 72 olive trees to harvest. No way I can tackle that this year. Same applies. Got to get these picking parties together. Suggestion, please. Will I be too late to get the local co-op involved? Maybe.
there are machines you can buy for doing it. There's a still strimmer pole. It's like a long head trimming pole with little prongs on it, like a fork at the end, and that vibrates the bush. It vibrates the branches and shakes them all off. They're about 300 euros, but apparently they save you hours and hours per tree.
Yes.
The traditional way to do it by hand, but this still have brought this onto the market, and apparently people love it. It just saves you a lot. Yeah.
Okay. I wonder what it's like for the tree. For those tree huggers and plant communicators, they can probably tell us. They're among us. Pete, watching the sunset from my bed, so luxurious I can't even imagine life before this. Victoria's having a great time. Our very own Wham Pam of the Grey Watch, and sending us some fantastic videos already. Talking of which, you might have to arise and take. So yeah, she's gone for an afternoon nap by the sound of it, up for the nightlife in Praia da Rocha tonight by the sound of it. I might have to arise and take a walk outside for a cinematic video of what will be a spectacular sunset tonight for sure. That sounds wonderful. Can't wait to see that, Victoria. I know we're going to ask the mayor for help and the local Ligar. Oh, yes, of course, the mill. Victoria, so glad you feel at home. Lee, I am definitely going to prune as we go, going to harvest half this year and half next year. A lot of work there, Pete, by the sound of it. Only thing you should be worried about with a death's head moth is your kid getting a tattoo of it. That's true. Yes. Somewhat awkward tattoo to have. I mean, that's the one that's associated with the Silence of the Lambs, isn't it, I think?
Yeah.
Okay. Matty's saying, looking forward to seeing it on the Good Morning Portugal show tomorrow. That's Victoria's video tonight. Oh, no, I have to go to the office. Not sure I can watch live GMP tomorrow. Okay, well, you can watch the replay and see that beautiful sunset. Look out the window and see what a beautiful... It's so true. It's a beautiful... We're all enjoying it from our various aspects here.
I'll probably have to take your word for you on that one.
Yeah, sorry, Anna.
The sun's behind me now, but I can see the redness on the houses on the other side and on the trees opposite. I can see the redness.
Yeah, I have a pink hue coming in through the window, and I'm not talking about my neighbour. Peter Bleach, Louise, it does look like an amazing harvest there. Yes, those tomatoes I think Pete's talking about. And yes, lots of talk of the sunset. So I think we should drift into that, fade into it. One more comment from Eric. We also have some other insects that between 15 and 18 centimeters big. That's for Doug and his comments. I can cope, he says, with normal sized bugs and flutterby creatures. But look at these, 15 to 18 centimeters big. They still scare me when they start moving when I don't expect it. That's it, isn't it? It's when you're not expecting it that it's a problem. Any more final comments, Anna, that you've picked up on, that you've seen?
I don't think so. I just had an interesting thought. Just think about the grafting side of gardening earlier. I was just going to say, is there like a maximum of how many things you can graft onto one plant? And can you tell if you've sort of grafted something which doesn't like something else? And are there ways to tell if you have?
That's what I was saying about choosing the right rootstock. If you want to graft more than 5 or 6 different branches on, you really need to be careful of selecting your rootstock, because they have to go onto an existing existing branch. So selecting your first plant is the important one, and then you can pretty much stick anything you want on it. And I've seen all sorts of combinations. Traditionally I've stuck with doing lemons on one, or doing oranges on one, or doing apples on one. But I've seen some people mixing it up a little bit. But whether they actually get really to full growth, you never really know. But plums graft really as well. Plum branches. You can do it all sorts with it.
Yeah, that would be so amazingly. Maybe now that the days are getting shorter and you might be in the potting shed a bit more, perhaps. They're not getting any shorter. It's not going to get any quieter for you. No,
it's getting more and more busy at the moment.
Is it? Oh, okay. So if you can squeeze a video out as well, that would be awesome of plants, of plant growing in that way, and fruit stock and so on. Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you, Anna. Thanks, John, who's gone already. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. What a lovely session again tonight. So clearly, get those questions in early and send those pictures in early, because it rocks along very nicely as we go into the winter here on the Gardening Q&A with Good Morning Portugal. Happy Homesteaders and the Fresh Air team. Have a great evening, everybody. Ciao for now. Come on, you know the words.